from Martin Cudahy. Most marine scientists don't have the money or equipment to explore the deep sea, but the oil and gas industries do. In a novel collaboration, oil and gas have been sharing their high-tech undersea exploration equipment with universities, and that's giving Australian marine researchers a chance to study new and rarely seen creatures of the deep. Brendan Trembath reports.
More than a kilometre under the sea, off the coast of Brazil, a rarely seen creature is caught on camera. What look like legs are actually fins. It's called a tripod fish and was shadowed last year by a robot submarine. For a few years now, international oil and gas companies have been lending deep-sea subs to marine scientists such as David Booth, with amazing results.
A lot of these remote operated vehicles have a downtime, so maybe 90% of the time this skilled crew and the thing itself is just sitting there, waiting to be used for discovery.
The mini-submarines are built tough to withstand intense pressure. They have powerful lights and live cameras. And their robot arms are incredibly dexterous.
Well, we use the remote operated vehicles to examine our wellheads, our pipelines and our undersea infrastructure that can be a few hundred to a few thousand metres below the sea surface. But we don't need to use the ROV remote operated vehicles 100% of the time.
These depths are known as the midnight zone, too deep for sunlight to reach. The darkness hides the sort of creatures Jules Verne could only speculate about in the 1860s, when he wrote 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
There's some very interesting things in the deep sea. Sometimes the things you get on the surface, like little crustacean creatures, are giant in the deep sea. So similar looking things, but maybe 100 or 200 times the size.
A fleeting glimpse of a giant squid in Australian waters. The creature appears to be curious about the drilling equipment in its domain. Marine scientists are inquisitive types too. Peter McCready has also explored the deep sea with industry help.
It might often be a call in the middle of the night from one of the rig operators saying that we've got some time to join them on one of their missions, and we head out offshore via helicopter onto one of their rigs, and we'll sit with one of their remotely operated vehicle attendants.
At these depths, there are many surprises. Like the Dumbo octopus, named for its likeness to the Disney flying elephant character.
Often an ROV operator will say, "What's that?" And we say, "We don't know what it is." And that's what's really exciting about this. We're often discovering species that have never been described before, species that have never been seen alive, and species that have never been described in terms of where they are distributed. There's often organisms that we find are at much deeper depths than we ever knew possible.
The oil and gas industry doesn't have a perfect record for protecting the marine environment, but it does fund a lot of research.
It can add a great deal to the industry's operations in terms of reducing the time it takes to gain an approval by being able to share that information across the sector. We can then use that in our approval documentation to speed up approvals.
The collaboration known as the Serpent Project came about because the industry could go where most scientists could not.
And the idea was scientists were not getting access to the deep sea, which we recognise as a place where well over half of the life on Earth exists, and we know less about it than the moon. So we were never going to get there unless we had a partnership with people who go there regularly.
The scientists say they can publish what they please. In one of their latest papers, David Booth and Peter McCready have called for a rethink of the policy of removing oil rigs which have reached the end of their useful life.
More than 85% of the world's offshore oil rigs are about to reach the end of their production life. So they've stopped producing oil, and the decision now has to be made, what do we do with these offshore oil rigs, especially given that they've now become home to so many amazing creatures.
As old operations reach retirement age, the search for new sources of oil and gas continues.
Well, Australia's got something like over 50 petroleum provinces or geological provinces, and we've only really explored 12 to 13 of those provinces. So Australia is relatively underexplored at the moment.
There are many unknowns for the oil and gas industry and for marine scientists too.
We think up to 60% of the world's biodiversity is not on the land, not even in the rainforest, but could be in the deep ocean.
Brendan Trimbath reporting. And that's the program for tonight. Tomorrow